hosted by SEP Software and Novell. My name is Richard Yeager, and I'm the Marketing Manager for SEP. And today I'm joined by several people. With SEP, we have Lanai Bain and Shane Brown, and with Novell, we have Tracy Smith. Lanai is the VP of Business Development for SEP and is responsible for North American business development and channel partnerships. Shane is our senior engineer, and he really knows his way around the software and can answer any in-depth technical questions you may have. And Tracy is currently one of the product managers for Novell's OES. He also manages Novell Vibe and has worked with GroupWise and Novell Messenger. He's been with Novell for over 23 years, so should be able to answer any questions you have on the Novell side of things. And today, Tracy will be discussing, product highlights of Novell OES 11, and we'll also go into upcoming features and a roadmap of OES 11. When finished with that, Lanai and Shane will be conducting a brief overview as to how SEP backup software works with Novell products, and then we'll be diving into a live demo of our software in a Novell environment. Feel free to ask any questions along the way. There's a question box on the right-hand side of the GoToWebinar box on the right-hand side of your screen. And there will be a couple of Q&A sessions throughout the webinar, so please don't hesitate to ask. And without further ado, let's kick it off to Tracy and get started.
All right, thanks, Richard, and thanks for inviting me to participate in today's webinar. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Again, I'm one of the product managers for OES. And Madan's name is on the slide, and he and I share responsibility. He's not participating today, but is a key part of management of OES. So as stated, the goals for today is to give an overview of OES, give some product highlights. Hopefully most on the phone are familiar with all things OES. Review briefly some of the top things that are associated with OES 11 SP1 that came out last year. What's up and coming with OES 11 SP2. And then talk about OES Next, or our codenamed Altair and Beyond, which is the next major release of OES after SP2. Slide 3 gives a highlight of a lot of the values and services that are attached to OES. Hopefully, again, most who are using OES or leveraging are taking some good benefit from the many services that are provided with OES. To give a highlight over the product for the last few months, last December we released OES 11 SP1. As stated, I've been at Novell for some time. I took on responsibility for OES product management around that time and have since spent a lot of time meeting with customers and talking with customers about OES. A lot of things have been provided in that time. OES Upgrade Best Practices Guide. I've heard consistently from customers that the transition and update to OES 11, including SP1, has been a significant improvement in both time and effort and reliability than some of the experiences with updates in the past. And so we're getting some really good feedback around OES 11. We've added Windows 8 support, updated some consulting best practice guides around OES 11. The Kanaka client for the Macintosh has been updated for version 2.8. Mid-year, we updated to eDirectory 887 as included for both OES 2 and OES 11. If you're using the bundle edition this year, we updated it to support IDM version 4, and that's available. It's been available for several months, and hopefully you can take advantage of that if you weren't unaware of it. Hopefully everyone's also aware that Filer 1 has been released. They've also made a recent update to that initial release with a lot more planned. If you're using BCC or Business Continuity Clustering, we made an update to that around July. And we also added support for SUSE Manager during the summer time frame as well. And again, that very last point, feedback and statistics have shown that OES 11 SP1 has been one of the most stable releases of OES. It's also been the one that I, again, am consistently hearing very positive feedback about the upgrade process. I know there's been some challenges in the past as people have updated to other versions of OES, but OES 11 SP1 is really getting some really good comments and reviews from customers that I've been meeting with. To highlight some of the things that happened with OES 11 SP1, there was over 50 new features added. Some of the major ones, we've just got one slide here. And then Richard, when we end the webinar, I believe the intent is to make the presentation available, and I've added a lot of other details on the presentation outside of what's being showed today. But for SP1, we've enhanced the management capabilities, so there's been some updates to new clustering services management, simplified Linux user management, ease of deployment, significant improvement there. I'm definitely not the technical expert. Madan is mostly taking that responsibility, and I focus more on the business side. And the ease of deployment is something that, again, I consistently hear. Big improvements, a single DVD install. If you're using domain services for Windows, the Express installation that's available there now is really improved and increasing the value that you get when you do the update to OES. And then virtualization interoperability. We added and extended some of the hypervisor support for Hyper-V now and KVM. Again, that was just a high level with a lot more details available in the presentation afterwards. I've added this slide in here. It's a little out of the normal flow of the presentation, but in a lot of my customer meetings, people have been finding this information valuable. I mentioned Filer has been released earlier this year, and the blue boxes is where Filer is helping to fill in and take over some of those particular value points that OES has delivered previously in the past. Particularly iFolder. So Filer is really where the investment is. iFolder will continue to be delivered in OES for the next few releases. You're going to see us putting less and less resources on iFolder as the focus is definitely in Filer. So if you are leveraging iFolder today, you can continue to do so. You'll see it in updates to OES that are coming out. We continue to support that, but know that the investment and focus is in Filer. We've released a couple of articles out on Cool Solutions. I'm asking people to take a look at Filer, seeing where some of the gaps might be and how they're using iFolder, and then give us that feedback so that we can get that on the roadmap for the Filer as it's doing updates. If I go down to the file storage row, archive and versioning, again, Filer is going to be filling in that. Net storage, which is the web client into OES, Filer will be filling in there, but net storage is a key option for many of our customers, a key access point. And so even though we're not doing a lot of improvement and investment in extending net storage, again, most of that investment is in the web clients in Novell Filer, but you will continue to see net storage as one of the deliverables within OES. We will continue to support it if we find issues. They'll look at to be addressed, but know that it's still in there and a key part of OES, but Filer is, again, where the focus is for the investment in the future. And then the last item on that row is Quick Finder. Again, Filer is going to be working to where the focus is for the type of functionality that Quick Finder provides. Okay, moving on to OES 11 SP2. This release is currently planned for early next year. OES has been updated to support the latest version of /11 SP3. Again, improvements around simplifying the install and the deployment. We've updated to eDirectory 8.8. Now, one of the things you'll notice there is that NetIQ, we've officially changed the branding on eDirectory. So no longer Novell eDirectory, but NetIQ eDirectory. Again, we'll be updating to version 8.8.8 in this support pack. XDAS is bundled now in OES. There's been a number of enhancements on domain services for Windows. Sites and subnets is the major feature that's coming out there. If you're not leveraging domain services for Windows, we've just done a number of enhancements there to improve that service within OES. Management and monitoring enhancements. If you're participating in the beta, we've been getting a lot of really good feedback around some of the improvements that have been happening there to improve in these areas with OES. There's been a lot of stability and reliability fixes. And then the last bullet there is we've made some adjustments to improve the third-party interoperability, particularly with antivirus. Backup also gets some benefits. But some improvements there to make improve the support that we get from vendors in those particular areas. And again, OES 11 SP2, the planned release is for the early part of next year. We started the beta a little bit over a month ago. We've had 3 releases, really good participation from our beta sites, and we're looking forward to that release. Now, I know I'm moving quickly. I want to give plenty of time for the SEP team. We've got the OES Altair, which is the code name for the next major release of OES. The major focus for that release is that we will be adding Active Directory support for NSS. We see a lot of our customers, for whatever reasons, are moving or adopting Active Directory. Sometimes that happens through a top-level decision. Sometimes there's politics. Sometimes there's acquisition and mergers that are going on. But for whatever the reason, historically it has meant that if a customer adopts Active Directory, then it inherently means they move away from OES. And you're seeing a lot of the products within Novell support a directory agnostic or become Active Directory compliant. And this is one of the key areas of focus that we're doing with OES as well. So this is, again, attached to OES Altair. We don't have a specific time frame on this yet. It'll be obviously about a year after estimated SP2. But we will be adding support for native Active Directory integration for your storage. What this means to you is if you have that pressure to adopt or move to Active Directory, you will be able to retain the investment you have in your storage. Many organizations have been using OES, maybe originated from Netware, might have terabytes and terabytes of data. Enormous investment in the structure and the organization attached to their volumes and the shares and the way people are provisioned. That investment can be maintained. You will not have to modify that investment. You'll be able to retain that investment, continue to leverage and benefit from the features within NSS, but know that NSS can now tie directly into Active Directory to provision and get the users. It is not a duplication of directories. So some organizations who are already using Active Directory are using like the bundle edition to synchronize users between Active Directory and eDirectory. This integration is going to be a native integration directly into Active Directory. So a lot more of that to come. The team has been heavily working and engaged in this, and this is the #1 issue that they're focused on outside of the SP2 work that's being delivered right now. Some of the other things that we hear consistently from our customers outside of the pressures with Active Directory have been some of the limits associated to the 8 terabyte on the NSS pools. So we're looking to remove that barrier. We don't know if that'll be part of the Altair release. Our goal is to make it part of the Altair release. It doesn't affect a lot of customers, but there's a few customers, and we know the storage is growing, so we'll be removing this limit. The limit after this is going to be much, much larger, so it'll be a while before people start hitting into the new limit. Some of the other high-level things we're looking at for the server updates, delayed block allocation. I'm not going to go through all of these in details, but the high-level benefits is it'll mean faster read-write performance, reduced login times, and faster backup times. We're also working on improving some of the standard support. We're making some adjustments in our team to put specific focus on updating the protocol support with CIFS. So SMB2 and SMB3 is something that we plan to work on and we'll be working on in parallel to the work that we're doing for NSS for AD, updating to support IPv6, and then looking at some of the optimizations we can do around SSD. And then getting close to the end, slide 13 shows the overall view of our roadmap. Again, you can see what's come out in 2012 with OES 11 SP1, 2013, what we've been doing during the course of this year, and then as we get into 2014, OES 11 SP2 again will be released earlier with other updates coming, and then Altair is slated for late 2014, early 2015 with the NSS AD support being the primary objective for that release. If you do have any questions or are looking for more details on any of this stuff, feel free to reach out to myself or Madan. Here are our emails where you can send any requests directly. Madan and I work, even though we're on other sides of the world, we work together closely and weekly if not daily, so feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about the direction of OES or if you have any specific input for us. And I'm looking on the chat. I'm not seeing any direct messages or questions. If you do have some, please leave it on the chat. Other than that, Richard and Lene, I'll turn the time back over to you.
Hey, thanks, Tracy. That was a great overview. Yeah, the only question that came in so far that I saw, someone asked if the slides will be available, and we'll actually go ahead and send all attendees a copy of those slides, and we'll also have a recording of this webinar available online as well. So we'll get those out at the end of the webinar, probably about an hour or two after, and then everybody should be able to see those. So,
and again, on the slide, there's a lot more detail included, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to provide those.
Great. Yep, we'll definitely make sure that everybody gets that.
And I can give one more call out. I can say, you guys weren't expecting this, but in the customer meetings that I've been doing the last many months, just a couple of weeks ago, we were meeting with the customer and talking about OES, and they proactively brought up SEP. And they were extremely positive about using SEP as a solution within their environment. They just had great accolades to state. And again, it was a proactive thing. It wasn't part of our normal questioning. We typically ask about the solutions they use for backup and antivirus, and this particular customer was just thrilled with it. So, kudos to you guys.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. So always good to hear that kind of feedback. So I'm going to go ahead and just go through a very quick little overview so that we can go ahead and get to the main heart of what we'd like to show you guys, which is the kind of demo that we have set up for you. So I'm going to basically just kind of give you guys a brief overview. Who is SEP? What do we do? What do we focus on? Why would someone want to choose SEP over another backup solution? We all know there's a ton of backup solutions out there, so what kind of differentiates us, and what makes us a solution that people would want to use? We basically have boiled it down to three main things that we focus on, and kind of three product differentiators, if you will. The first is the fact that we're able to back up very heterogeneous environments, and so we've seen over the years that a lot of folks have multiple solutions in place to meet their backup requirements. So a lot of folks have a separate solution for virtual technology. They may have a different solution that can handle backup to tapes versus backup to disks. They may have a third solution to handle Linux versus just their normal Windows solution, or vice versa. And so what we find is people have a lot of extra cost, managing multiple solutions in terms of both, upfront purchase cost and also just training and support and everything, and resources to manage those. And so because we support such a wide range of products, we're able to go in and just help customers consolidate down to one solution, so they can have one backup solution for their entire environment. Whether that be all virtual, all physical, a combination of both, whether it be just a Novell environment, or as we know, a lot of people have, at least a couple Windows servers in the mix somewhere. Some people have, very split environments where it's more half and half. So we're able to support all the different operating systems. We can run SEP on Linux, on Windows, or on Solaris. So that if you do have, an all Linux environment, for example, you can keep it all Linux if you choose to. And so we're also able to, support large range of databases, et cetera. So it basically just brings one panel of glass for an administrator to see and to support their entire environment. The second main thing that we focus on is performance. So because we use multi-streaming technology, we're able to back up multiple streams of data at the same time, whether it be multiple streams from an individual server or multiple servers at the same time, backing up to disk or to tape or NAS or to the cloud or whatever configuration a network admin desires. And so because we're able to support such a large number of streams simultaneous, we're really able to cut backup windows. In a lot of cases, we cut backup windows anywhere from about 50 to 98%, and those numbers are pretty consistent across the board. Obviously, if we're backing up over a T1 connection, there's probably not going to be a whole lot that we can offer. But in an environment where there's sufficient bandwidth, we increase performance dramatically. And the third thing that we really focus on is reliability. And if some of you guys have joined our webinars before, you've probably heard me say this before, but it's a pretty good example of the reliability of our software and kind of the origin of and the thought process of how we want our software to be the most reliable software on the market. We're originally a German-based company, and so the laws in Germany are quite a bit different than in the U.S., and they actually say that if a company tells another company that they're going to back up their data, they actually become financially responsible for that data, unlike in the U.S. where you click the little checkbox that says, this may or may not work, and we hope it does, but if it doesn't, we're sorry. In Germany, they take it very serious, and there's actually laws in place so that if a customer were to lose their data, we would be financially responsible for that data. So we take reliability extremely serious, and anytime you get a confirmation that a backup was successful, you know that you can restore that data 100% of the time. It's not something that we normally focus on, but I do put it on the slide as kind of a fourth kind of bonus. Our cost is very competitive in the market, so we're generally about 40 to 60% of industry average from a upfront purchase price. So, especially in times like these, ongoing economic downturn, stuff like that, it can be very cost efficient to switch over to a solution that's going to give you, the best TCO and ROI on the market today. Here's just a brief overview of different products that we support. Starting on the left-hand side, like I said, you can install SEP, the main backup console, on pretty much any popular operating system that you like. Anything from Windows 2000 up, I believe, is supported. Anything from Linux kernel 2.5 is supported, and I think any Solaris or Unix for the past 10 or 15 years is supported. So, as far as application, obviously, all the main GroupWise applications, GroupWise 8, GroupWise 12, Exchange as well, also Lotus Notes, and then all the main databases. On the virtual technology, we support all the major virtual platforms, so VMware, Hyper-V, Citrix, and Xen as well. And then we also have bare metal recovery for both Linux and Windows, and also Windows workstations as well. So just to kind of get back to the first concept that we talked about, the multi-streaming, this is just a quick little diagram to basically just show how the multi-streaming works. We're just able to back up multiple streams of data to a single media at the same time. So we could, and we could actually be backing up more streams than one stream, per server here that you see. All the different operating systems are supported, so you can do simultaneous backups of your whole environment at the same time. And we could even further break this down if if we had specific databases on some of these servers, then we could have those in separate tasks, which would add additional streams and would make the backups even faster. A couple examples of what we've been talking about, just kind of real-world scenarios. So Vodafone, they're the partner company of Verizon in EMEA, and they have us deployed at 1,500 sites remotely, and also they'll be rolling us out to another 4,200 sites this year. So again, perfect example of having a large enterprise with lots of different remote locations and being able to manage that from one central management console. Guardia Civil in Spain, they're pretty much the equivalent of kind of like the FBI and the State Patrol put together. And they have us enterprise-wide across the country at over 450 locations. And then a little bit closer to home, National Archiving and Record Administration, we actually took over their enterprise group-wise about a year and a half ago, and their backups went from over 6.5 days down to about 11 hours. So perfect example of the multi-streaming, how efficient that can be, and how that can decrease backup windows. Another example of that multi-streaming with the Port of San Diego, their backup tasks were, a full backup for them was over 3.5 days. And we were actually able to, 4.5 days, and we were able to get it down to under 4 hours. And specifically, they had a pretty large Oracle installation that we were able to get from about 4 hours and 40 minutes down to about 42 minutes. So once again, very quick and efficient, and just kind of a couple real-world examples. And we have plenty of case studies. If any of you guys are interested, just let us know, and we'd be happy to send over some more examples, or put you guys in touch with some actual customers that use this on a day-to-day basis, and let you guys get some feedback from them as well. Some other features that we offer, we do file archiving as well, and sorry about that. We also have deduplication. So right now we have inline destination side deduplication, and we'll kind of go into a little roadmap in the next slide or two, and tell you a little bit about what that's going to evolve into over the next couple months. I put generic drivers on here, and basically what I mean by that is we use all the original operating system drivers to communicate with any type of storage media so that we can support pretty much anything under the sun. So we're very hardware agnostic, so we can back up to pretty much any type of media that is recognized by your operating system, whether it be SAN, NAS, disk, tape library, what have you. We do offer bare metal recovery for Linux, Windows, and Windows workstations, like I had mentioned. We have full support for Citrix Zen Server, also for VMware, Hyper-V, and open source Zen. Some of the new features that we offer are CBT, change block tracking for VMware, and we're actually able to do that CBT on the fly as well, so you can have active up and running VMs that you can replicate pretty much in real time and have those as standby, hot standby. So that's a pretty cool feature that we offer as well. More targeted towards Novell support. We also fully support all of Novell's products, so we communicate directly with the Novell TSAs, so all the backups that we do are native. We fully support eDirectory, have single file or single single object restore capability, supports all the trustee rights and everything. Full support for NSS volumes, full support for OES, whether that be OES 2 or OES 11. You can actually use SEP to go back all the way, I think, to Netware 4.5 or 3.5, and you can actually do a full backup and a full restore and skip all the different upgrades along the way. So you could do a backup from Netware 6.5 and do a full restore to an OES 11 server, and basically use that to migrate from Netware to OES. So we've had some great customers' feedback on that, and just kind of another added bonus that's something that we support to kind of make life easier. Full support for GroupWise, like I mentioned before, whether it be GroupWise 7, 8, or 2012. All of the GroupWise has single user or single email restore capability as well. For Netware, we don't require any client installed because we communicate directly with the TSAs. I know a lot of folks are already upgraded to OES 11, so I think that's becoming less important, but we definitely do see some folks out there still with Netware up and running strong. Alrighty. Some new features that we have, like I mentioned, we do have the change block tracking, enables incremental backups of VMs, and then also enables the warm standby functionality for VMs as well. We also have single file restore for VMware now, which means that we can, we don't have to put an agent or a client onto a virtual machine to get single file restore capability. Everything is 100% agentless now. We also have the inline source side deduplication. This is actually just released, I believe, last week. So the next iteration of that, which you can see here, which will be coming out Q4 of this year, will be a destination side deduplication built in as well, and that's going to have destination side, or sorry, I apologize, that should say source side. It says destination side. That should say source side. So we are working on source side deduplication, which will be available Q4. So yeah, my apologies. Just go ahead and flip those two line items, and we'll correct that before we send out the final slides after the webinar. So right now we do have destination side dedupe. We are working on source side, and that will be available Q4 of this year. I would say probably towards the end of the year, maybe into January. And then we also have some Citrix Zen server integration, direct integration that will be out later this year or early next year as well. All right. If anybody has any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer those while we kind of transition here over to a live demo portion. Also, one other thing I would like to mention, if you guys have any questions or would like to get in touch with us, here's our direct contact info. So please reach out to us, send us an email, give us a call, let us know if you'd like to do any testing or have any specific questions to your environment as far as things we support, things we don't support, etc. And we do have a question that came in during the last couple minutes, and it asks about support for KVM. And so we will be supporting KVM when KVM has a up and running API. So currently there's no API in place to support. So once that is fully functional and ready to go, then yes, we will be supporting KVM as well. Okay, we have another question coming in here. Let's see. Okay, it says, is the eDirectory tree backed up using TSAs also for easy restore? Can an OES 11 server be the host backup server? And the answer to both of those are yes. We do use the TSAs for eDirectory, and you can use an OES 11 OES 11 server for the main backup server host. Next question, does VMware single file restore support Linux, especially /11? And the answer to that is, I believe, yes. Yeah, should support that for sure. Does SEP support backing up VM from ESXi? That depends on what version of ESXi you have. If you have version any 4.x version, it will support because VMware still included their API in that version. Anything 5 .x or later, it will not support because VMware removed their API from their free ESXi version. So I guess basically if you have a licensed version of VMware, then the API is going to be included, so it will be supported. If you just have the free version, then it will not be supported. Next question, how can we test SEP software for a trial period? Again, you can either just go to our website, www.sepusa.com, and download a trial version. Or if you'd like, you can contact us directly, and we can, get one of our engineers on with you to kind of walk you through an installation and give you a quick overview. The installation itself usually takes about 2 to 3 minutes, and then, configuration and setting up tasks and some jobs and stuff usually take about a half hour, 45 minutes. So anywhere from, about 45 minutes to an hour, I would say you can kind of be fully up and running, have some questions answered, have a brief overview. And another question, can we get support instructions about testing procedures and simple steps for testing? And yeah, a lot of that's documented, and I can get you some of that information directly as well, no problem. Alrighty, if you guys have other questions, keep them coming. We'll have another quick Q&A after we do a demo. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Shane Brown and let him get started with the live demo portion.
Hey guys, and I'm assuming people can hear me here, so we're just going to keep going.
Loud and clear.
If everybody can see my screen, I actually have in the environment 2 OES servers, a Netware server, a Windows server, a Zen server running here in this environment that we're just going to take a quick look and actually give live examples of some of those questions that were coming up. So that's going to work out well. On the OES side, we have an OES 2 server and an OES 11 server. I'm going to go ahead and just use the OES 2 server as our backup server. The OES 11 server could also be used, or we could use the Windows side. It doesn't matter. You aren't required to use any specific OS to back up any other type of OS. You can use whichever one you want. I'm just going to go to a terminal window, and the only thing that we do have set up in this environment, Java, is already configured on this box, and we know DNS is working. So those 2 things you want to just make sure are good in your environment. And I'm going to just type something correctly and go ahead and run an install. So I have the SEP server already downloaded, which is right here, and I have the Novell client already downloaded. We're going to put those both on this box just to show a quick demo of how that works when backing up. And we're going to go ahead and do the server first because we need the server up and running before we can do anything with the actual clients or talk to anything. So we'll install a server, and this is going to go out and actually set up a database instance for us. So it's going to create a Postgres database and get that configured for us. As you can see, it went ahead and created the GUI icon. So it installed the GUI using Java. It validated the Java version before it ran the install. If it could not find Java, it would have given us an error. Then it set up the database. It's also going to set up an actual test backup and backup area. So it'll create an area that it can do a backup of itself. So during the install, it's going to run a test just to make sure it's able to talk to the system, get the information it needs, and back up its metadata information for itself. It'll set up and schedule what's called a new day, which will run every day to run a backup of itself and keep everything compressed and clean in the database. Asking us for the license agreement, we will agree to the license agreement, run it, and if everything worked, it should show us a successful backup restore that ran. Restore completed successfully, and we're up and going. Everything works successfully. we're running a trial license, so it just lets us know, hey, your demo is going to expire in 30 days. We will come back here because we want to install the Novell client too. And this Novell client that we're installing is the only piece you have to install. It does not, you don't have to install any additional clients anywhere else in the environment. This will actually talk directly to the TSAs as we were talking about. It is that fast, so we're ready to start setting up backups. Going to go into the tasks by client. So I'm going to go and set up a new client in our local environment. So the new client, we have a Netware 658 server. Let's just do that one first. And this server, we're going to identify as being Netware, and we want to configure the access. Since we're not installing an agent on the server, we need to go ahead and set up our account information because it's actually going to log in to the server for the backups. And we'll set our login, say OK, and it will test that our login worked and that it's able to talk to the server. So we can see right down here, access is valid. It tells us the client's installed. A client is not installed. There's nothing there, but it was able to authenticate. That's the only thing it's identifying there. One other thing I did not point out is our data mover. That's the client, wherever it's installed. In this case, we installed it on the local box. It does not have to be installed on the local box. It can be installed anywhere in the environment, but it just needs to have that data mover installed somewhere on a server. And we can just say new backup task. We don't even need to fill out any of the properties. We already identified that we're talking to it. We just say Novell services and go out and it sees that, hey, you've got a network file system, and it sees our volumes. So let's just go ahead and pick vol 1 for a backup and say OK. So we've created a backup task that we are ready to go. Now, we did not see eDirectory. Let me just change to the eDirectory to the network server. And like we said, we just use the TSAs. So I'm going to load TSA NDS. Go back to the server. Let's just look, new backup task. Look at our Novell services again, and it reread it. Now we have eDirectory as an option for that backup. So I can select our tree, say OK, and now we have 2 backup tasks that are created there. We have a OES 11 box in the environment too. Let's go ahead and create a backup on that one, or a task rather. Platform, same platform. We're going to say Netware. Now, if we say Netware, the only thing we're going to be able to talk to is the TSAs. If we want to talk to the local file system, then we'll want to install the agent or we'll want to back it up as a virtual. But I'm going to just use the TSAs to talk to this. I, again, need to authenticate to the tree. And we will go ahead and it's going to validate it. Again, the data mover is the local server again. And we now have an additional server. You can see all of our clients. New backup task. Again, we'll just click the button to go look at it, see which TSAs are configured. Again, we have a TSA for the file system. So all you can need to do is drill down to the actual volume, which we have an NSS volume on the box. And we see it looks a little different because this is in Linux, and we can select the volume. So at this point, we can quickly do a backup of our volume. We'll do immediate start and say OK, backup started. And then what we can do is look at our backup jobs. And I do not have enough space. Let me go create another volume because then I can actually have space, back this up, and we can restore it directly to our OES 11 box. So we can go from 6.5 to 11 immediately. I didn't create a data group. So data stores, again, it created a small one, and that's the only thing it had available during the initial install. I can create a new data store, and we're going to call this Big Backup. And our path is just where our data store is mounted. So I have a volume specifically created that we can do this for. It will create our capacity, which is the entire disk that it sees for that one mount point. It will ask us to create a media pool for that data store. And we'll create our media pool, drive group. It identifies, hey, this drive group is there. And then the retention time is the amount of time it's going to keep that. So if we're going to set different retention times for our backups, we can modify this right here. And we can modify our backup itself by looking at the properties and changing the group it's going to. Not at the properties of the backup, it's actually when you start it. Backup, and we're going to send it instead to the local one that it created, we're going to create it and send it to Big Backup. While this is running, we're also going to create one more client. We have in our environment a Zen server hypervisor. So again, we don't have any agents installed. I'm just going to go ahead and identify the name of it. DNS is talking to it, so we'll say Zen server. We will identify the platform is Unix in this case, not Netware, and it will give us the option of a Citrix Zen server. As soon as I change it to Zen server, our tab changes up here. Again, we need to authenticate since we're not installing an agent. By using the username and password. Our data mover needs to be a server in the environment that has the SEP server or client installed. So we're going to go ahead and pick the backup server again. Say OK. And now we have a new client created that when we create a new backup task for it, it will go out and talk to the server and show us everything that is in that on that hypervisor. In this case, we have a Windows server there, and we have our host backup information, and we have our metadata information. Metadata information is specific to the server, the drivers, the network card, the IP address, so we can get all of the metadata for the hypervisor backed up and be able to restore it without having to rebuild all of that information. Host backup is for the host-specific information and then the actual data itself that's on the server. So we can create a backup for each one of those. Again, it will autofill the task information. And the source, we say OK, and you can see we've got that set up. We go back to our backups. We can see that our second one we had a successful backup to. And so we go back to our clients. And now we can actually select this and do a restore task. And this restore task, we're going to just send it to a different server. So the task is the one that just ran. If we have multiple backups that we've run, the test backup was from the install, and this is from the volume we just backed up. We would be able to select whichever one we wanted, and then we can tell it, okay, we want to select our one backup. If we've been running this every night for a week, it would show us all of them. If you're running differentials, you can select just the full. It'll know what differentials it needs to add and create one restore task for you. So you just need to select the full backup that you have. Go back, we're going to actually select the entire volume that we want to do a restore. Now that was a button in the previous one where we can do a complete restore. If we only wanted to select a specific directory, we can also select that here. And then where we want to do the restore target, we don't want to restore it to the original path. We want to restore it to a new target. And we're going to actually select the other server, which is our OES 11 box. And we're going to select our volume, which is also called vol1 in this case, but we want to make sure we're talking down in the path to the correct volume for the TSA agent to read it correctly. Selected, okay, and we can just say start. So in this case, do not write over existing files. We don't have any files on that. It's a brand new server. We can overwrite if we do or create a new version. So we'll just say start, and we now have a restore task running. So we just did a backup of our Netware 6.5 box, did a restore onto OES 11, and if we go into our restore, we can actually see our restore was successful. Now, all those ran pretty quick. If they actually took a little more time, we could see what was going on in our performance windows down here. Current messages gives us all the messages, everything that's happening on a server at this time. And our performance window will give us overall throughput in the middle area, and then on the left side, specific throughput by server. So we did a backup, we did a restore, we have everything on our OES 11 box now. We could just change our login script and people could be logging in and accessing the new server. If this was fully in a VMware box environment instead of a box, a physical box that we're talking through the TSAs, or if the difference between what a VMware environment and an actual Citrix Zen server looks like, let's just go ahead and move over to a different test environment we have. And I'll show you how an ESX cluster looks and how those boxes look. So give me a moment to modify this.
And Jane, while you're switching that over, we've had a couple questions come in. So the first question was, does SEP support NFS, iSCSI, etc.? And the answer is yes, we do. So those are all supported. NFS, iSCSI, CIFS are all fully supported. I think we get the fastest performance out of NFS. Just because of the protocol, but it's supported the same as everything else. And then another question that came in, are NAS and SAN both supported? And the answer is yes to both. Like I had said earlier, as long as any type of media is recognized by your operating system, then we can use it as a backup target. And
nice.
Looks like you're set, so we'll field the rest later.
And yeah, just if there's any questions that come up where I can show them something in the environment, just let me know. We can go ahead and show that. So in this environment, we have a vCenter server with the VMDK drivers from VMware installed on it. So if I go to the server and actually say new backup task and hit the same button to go ahead and view the environment, what we're going to see is we have the vCenter database. So it says, hey, you've got SQL installed. So we could back up our SQL side, but we also have this piece where it says VMware. And we're looking at a cluster of servers for our production DTS prod environment that we can use and select. And when we select it, it's going to go out and query that entire cluster and show us all of the virtual machines that are running on there. So as you can see, we've got a number of virtual machines on there. In fact, we've got a couple here. Here's a Filer beta that was one of the original Filer servers up. We can actually select that, and it'll auto-populate the information again. We can then choose our backup configuration and tell it not to get the VMDK data or VMDKs in separate save sets, and we can tell it whether we want to activate change block tracking for this, which means that if we do a full backup, then when we do another backup, we can actually do a differential and just get the changed blocks, or we can activate the change block tracking to manage where those blocks are getting restored and track it to make faster backups and keep things in the background running as needed. So let's just say, okay. If we launch this, here, I'll just launch one of the smaller servers. Immediate start. And go ahead and change the media pool. And what it's going to do is go ahead and launch the backup to run. If we go to the backup window, we can see we have an active backup. And now, after it actually gets all the metadata and everything, that we'll start to see throughput on this box, and we can watch it. I know we have about a little less than 5 minutes left, so I'm going to just let this run while we answer any additional questions that are out there and anything that people have that they'd also like to see while we're waiting.
All right. So yeah, there was one question that says, can you show an example or a couple examples of scheduled backups?
So that's an easy one. Let's just go to the schedules themselves. And when you set up a schedule, you can just set up a time for that schedule. And so in this case, we have a schedule set up daily for 10 o'clock, a new day and a weekly. We can just say new backup event. And we can select our servers one at a time. So we've set up these backups that we were just creating right now. Let's go ahead and just pick a couple. Say OK. And we'll say another one. And what it will do is all of these priorities we have set to 1. So it's going to auto-prioritize and optimize our backup for everything that starts at 10 o'clock. Now, I'm selecting one task at a time. We can create a group, and we can actually create a new group and select multiples of these, put them into a group, and then select a task group. So you don't have to go through and select them one at a time, but you can dump them all into a group, launch it, and track it that way. So you just create the schedule that you want to use, and then add the pieces to that schedule that you want to modify. If we look at the properties, you'll see that you can set it to once a day, daily, or just once a day, once a week, monthly, or yearly, and then identify every day, hour, minute, when this task will begin, set an end date. If you only want this to run during a specific cycle, year-end, you're getting a separate bit of information. You don't need to get that all year long, and define when it's going to start and what it does. Any other questions?
We do have some other questions. So it says, next question is, where are these files being backed up? To disk?
In this case, they are to disk with what we're doing. You can also set them to tape. If you have a tape drive, you can see different tapes. They show up as individual items. This is one large data store that we have. So this one's being backed up to disk, and this one is also a test tool that gets created.
And that answered the next question, which is, does SEP have any way to move to tape? So we can back up directly to tape, or what we can do is back up to disk first and then schedule a migration task, and then we can actually migrate that, copy that backup from disk over to tape as well. And you can also repeat that process. You can go from tape back over to disk if you'd like. You can do disk to tape, SAN to disk to tape to cloud. You can pretty much do any combination you'd like. And another question, can you show a restore of emails from GroupWise? Do we have any GroupWise on here that already has a backup done of it, or not?
No, we would have to go back it up to do a restore. So we cannot do that at this time, but we can set up a demo for them.
Yeah, and I would just say, let us know if that's something you'd like to see, and we'd be more than happy to, set up an individual kind of one-on-one with you and show you how that works and what it looks like. That's no problem. Next question, is there a setup for email alerts?
And that's a definite. So in our configuration, we can look at email settings, and we can add whoever we want to send an email alert to and have it send those logs. And we can actually customize those logs to show just errors or all information, whatever you want to show in there.
Perfect. Yeah, and I know there's some pretty customized capabilities in there as well. I know we have some people that get SMS messages and stuff like that if they have critical failures or anything like that. So I know that you can go in and configure it and customize it to do quite a few different kinds of alerts in different ways. Okay. Next question, how is this product licensed? We have a traditional kind of backup software licensing model where we license the main backup server, and then we have clients or agents that we license as well. We license databases, and so on the virtual side, we license the virtual hosts. So if you had 4 VMware hosts, for example, we just have a license for each one of those hosts. So it's kind of traditional licensing model, and then we also have 3 different licensing models. That's kind of the main one that most people use and gives the best ROI. We also have a leasing model, and we also have a capacity-based model as well. So those are kind of all things that we could get in touch with you. If you have specific questions on your environment, we can get some information to you on that. That's no problem. Okay, next question. Recommended physical box for SEP server and with large hard drives.
So you obviously need enough disk to back up whatever you're going to back up if you're going to disk. Otherwise, you would just hook up to your tape drive itself. The best recommendation for the backup server is you have enough memory for your database, which if you're going to be doing around under 50 servers, 8 gigs is probably satisfactory. Above that, just keep adding as far as what the requirement is and how you're doing your backups. And then multiple network cards for bonding so you get your maximum throughput, especially if you're wanting to do a lot of backups simultaneously, since we can stack those together and talk to all those servers at the same time.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions? Go ahead and type those in. I think we're getting close to the end here. I know we're a couple minutes over the hour we had allocated, so thanks everybody for hanging in there. If anybody has any other questions, go ahead and submit those quickly. Shane, did you have anything else that you wanted to add as well?
No, just I think that if anybody has any more questions or would like to see a live demo in their own environment, as you saw, it's a pretty quick install. So if you have a server ready and DNS working, we definitely can help get things going, and you can play with it yourself and test throughput side by side with any backup software you're running and just identify how things work for you.
Okay. And we do have another question that came in, and it says, so no client is needed for most cases. And yeah, I mean, if you have a VMware environment or virtualized environment, then yeah, I would say in a VMware environment, yes, that's true. If you have a lot of physical servers, then obviously we would need clients or agents on those physical machines. So just kind of really depends on your environment. But yeah, if you're 100% virtualized on VMware, then yeah, that's pretty much the case. You wouldn't really need any clients at all. Alrighty, going to go ahead and switch it back over here with our contact information. So if anyone would like to reach out to us, or if you have any questions, if you would like to see a proof of concept or a demo in your environment, please just let us know. Here's the contact info, how to get a hold of us. More than happy to answer individual questions on a one-on-one basis. So yeah, shoot us an email, let us know. One other announcement that we didn't have on this slide, but that I can kind of give you guys a heads up on. we do have support for Filer that is right now in beta. I believe it should be released very soon. I have seen it up and running. It's pretty slick. It gives single file restore capabilities and everything. So we'll be announcing that in our next release, I believe, as well. So once again, you know, just more support for Novell's product line, and you know, one of our valued technology partners. So I would like to thank everyone for joining. I know you guys are all busy. I'd especially like to thank Tracy Smith for a great presentation and giving us an in-depth view of, you know, kind of where OES 11 is and where it's going in the future. We'll be, you know, working in conjunction with Novell as they progress their technology to make sure that everything's supported as well. So thanks again for joining us. Please join us again for our next upcoming webinar. I believe we have one in about 3 or 4 weeks. And let us know if you don't have any information on that. We'll be happy to send that information over as well. And Shane, thanks for a great presentation. And I guess this concludes our webinar for today.